Hey everyone, it's Theo from Spectrum Gardening. Today we're going to be planting peas, even though it's still in the middle of February and we've got some freezing nights ahead of us. It's not going to be posing any problems for the peas. I've actually planted peas in semi-frozen soil before and they popped up just fine. And I know what you're thinking, a video about planting peas? Planting peas is simple, how can you go wrong? Well, there's a few different ways, but we also have a different technique of doing it that will increase your pea harvest in the same amount of space. Let's get started. So you can probably hear all the wildlife that I have in the background. In the times that we've spent here, we've seen so much more wildlife in this yard than we have in our previous yard. It's just astonishing. Yes, it's about a 45 minutes difference between the two spaces, but and one space is more urbanized versus the other one, but it's just amazing how much more wildlife is actually here. Peas love to climb, so I've installed kind of a temporary trellis this year. It's the same type of mesh, not the exact same, but similar type of mesh that we use to build all our trellises with. It's got 6x6 holes, so you can reach your hands through in nice and easily without worrying about trying to pick stuff from the other side. The reason I put just a temporary one in is because it's our first season growing in this spot. So I'm not 100% sure of where the sun is going to be coming in and shining the most. From what I've been able to see so far, it's that far bed and this bed here, which are the hottest, and this bed is the shadiest. So this one I'm probably going to be putting my lettuce and my leafy greens in. But I will be building like permanent trellis structures all along them. But I'm just doing something temporary right now, just so I can be 100% sure of exactly my layout before I build something permanent. So since this mesh isn't actually like screwed in or fixed to anything, I've kind of buried it about a foot underneath the soil just to kind of hold it in place better. If I was growing anything heavier on it, like even cucumbers or melons or pumpkins, it wouldn't hold up. As you can see, it's just like that. But peas are relatively light. And you know what? Probably by the time they outgrow it, and if they do topple it, the pea season will be pretty much over anyways. So it should work out, and if not, it's just something temporary. I've got both the varieties I'll be planting right here. They're slightly different days of maturity. One is 59, one's 57. So it's very slight. However, they also produce slightly different peas too. And as I showed on the trellis earlier, I'll be planting one variety on each side. So one thing that we don't do is we don't pre-soak our peas. We also don't use any inoculates or anything like that. We just pretty much just shove them straight into the ground and let them be. I'll show you my spacing, and then we'll talk a little bit about the recommended spacing and kind of the difference between the two. So you can see I very carefully sprinkled my peas pretty much everywhere along the trench I dug. I know this isn't recommended spacing, and I know a lot of people are gonna be like, oh, you can do that? Yeah, you can do that. And actually the peas grow quite well like this. So this is the one variety. I don't remember which side I put which variety on at the moment, but I should probably label them because as every gardener knows, if you don't label a plant now, it'll be a mystery plant later on. So there's one variety here, and then if we go to the other side, there's the other variety. And I've just basically dug a trench and I've just kind of sprinkled peas everywhere, but very carefully, of course. This was our first planting of peas. I'll see how these germinate, and if need be, I'll come back and I'll re-sow any spots that were dug up by animals or didn't quite make it or anything like that. And then later in the season, I will be planting another crop of peas, potentially as well, depending what else I want to do and depending what else I want to plant with my beds. as I showed you earlier, the spacing of my peas, you can tell it was pretty extreme. We were very careful with the spacing. We basically dug a trench and very carefully sprinkled them everywhere in the trench. If you read typical guides of how to plant peas, they recommend to plant each pea 1 to 3 inches apart. Yeah, okay, sure. They will grow. However, we actually found with our more intensive planting that the peas will actually help each other climb up and latch onto each other and latch onto our trellises better, and we'll actually be able to harvest more peas in a smaller amount, a smaller square footage per se, versus planting them 1 to 3 inches apart. Yeah, it does kind of get to be jungly in there, and yeah, we do miss a couple peas here and there because it's so intense, and but yeah, other than that, it works really well. So you saw how basically I had like whole rows sprinkled down. I planted mine a little bit deeper because I've just put these garden beds in and the soil is still nice and light and fluffy, so I know it's going to settle quite a bit. The other reason I planted the peas a little bit deeper is not just because the soil has been freshly put in and because it's nice and light and fluffy, but also because I planted them so thickly that when they come up through the soil, they're basically going to push the soil aside. They're not going to like poke through just gently like what the regular spacing would be. They're basically going to break through and push and almost create a wedge where the layers of peas are and where the soil is. So what I might have to do later on is just kind of like brush the soil just gently over the sprouts. I might have to do that, I might not. But that's also why I planted them deeply, so then the soil actually has enough to kind of potentially kind of go back around. If you have any questions or comments, make sure to throw them in the section down below. And of course, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and to subscribe to our channel.